My name is Denise Carter. Married Will's 25 years ago. We have a lot of fun together. I met him on the dance floor, and now we have a podcast. What was interesting is that he worked nights. He just happened to be off that weekend.
She had beads on the end of her braids.
Oh.
And so then some poor guy, the first night, he was dancing with her, and she was just beating him all across the face. She picks on me all the time.
No, I don't. Do you know what he says? Someone has to listen. He always says, someone talks and someone listens. I'm the talker. So I do stand-up comedy. I perform locally, and then I went to work for a company called Meditech, and I started doing their Medicare claims. My first comedy show, I got involved with a heckler, and then I stopped. I didn't do it again until my father got sick. Will's doesn't say much. That's why our podcast is so unique. AI is here. That's why a lot of people don't have a lot of jobs. So I'm trying to learn this industry. It's $1 billion industry.
My old and dearest friend from my job that I worked in San Diego, Mission Health, they're actually lucky to have her. And that's why she's still there. She's moved on up the ladder, and she's here to talk about what she's been up to lately, talk about her new, podcast, actually. Can I be on there?
You can be on there. I would love to have you on there.
And guess who's here with her is her husband.
Yeah, her punching bag most of the time, but yes, I'm here.
Okay, so you're not her Uber driver. You're
the
the hubby.
I was the hubby.
Oh, and you guys are doing the podcast together.
We are,
Yes.
and the name of the podcast is called "Hanging Out with the Carters."
Hanging out with the Carters.
So, So Will's last name is Wills Carter, right?
Wills Carter.
And I married him 25 years ago.
Not Will, but Wills.
Exactly.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, with the S.
Okay.
Very unique.
Most
Right?
people want to say Willie or Willis,
I love it.
but it's Wills.
It's funny because he's right. No one will call him Wills, no matter how many times you tell him.
They call him Will?
Yeah, my name is Wills, but most people just like, I said, my name is Will. She said, oh, Willis? But it's okay. It's all good.
But that's usually the response. And that's why it's so funny, because it's everywhere we go.
That's been my life story.
It's very unique. I like it.
Well, most people don't know. My name is Denise Carter.
Denise Carter.
Married Will's 25 years ago. We have a lot of fun together. I met him on the dance floor, and now we have a podcast, From the Dance Floor to the Podcast.
Wow. And you have kids,
ago.
right?
But tell her the whole story.
Which part of the story?
I met you on the dance floor and you had braids in your hair.
Okay, so I met him on the dance floor. I went out one night, and it was a fluke that I saw this ad in the paper, and it said this band that I loved was going to be there. And I was telling my friends, let's go. And so we first went to happy hour.
Mm-hmm.
Because once people go home, they're not going to leave, right?
Yeah.
They're not going to leave their home. And then we left. One girl said, take me by my house. I just got to change. And we went to her house. She's like, take my car. I'm not going. And I was like, oh my God. And he was there Friday night. And a girlfriend and Candice and I went. She was like, why'd you bring me here with all these old people? And I was like, this is fun. I want to sing with the band. So, of course, they always ask you, you want to sing? And so anybody out there know anything? I'm like, I know something. So I ended up singing.
You got up on stage?
I got up on stage and I sang with the band. And when I got off stage, he was sitting at the bar talking to my friend. And there was all these shot glasses. And she was like, he bought me all these shots. And then she's like, I'm going to go to Bombay. So she left and went somewhere else. And I stayed because I wanted to sing.
You.
She ditched me. And then she took the car because we were riding together. And then she came back. But I was sitting there at the bar drinking the shots. Then I came the next night.
Mm-hmm.
And I told my friends, I said, we should go. They let me sing. So 8 of us showed up.
Mm-hmm.
And he was there. What was interesting is that he worked nights. He just happened to be off that weekend.
Oh.
I think it was meant to be.
Oh, yes.
Yeah?
Yes.
He approached you?
I don't. So I got on the dance floor and I had braids down to my butt, and I was swing. I'm like winding up my hair, just dancing, and he was dancing with me, and he goes, "I saw you last night," and he was ducking so I wouldn't hit him with my braids, and it was
And
funny.
she had beads on the end of her braids.
Oh.
And so then some poor guy the first night, he was dancing with her and she was just beating him all across the face. I said, oh my goodness. And so I was ready for her.
he was ready, and he was ducking and
I was
dodging.
bobbing and weaving like a boxer.
Yeah, I thought it was great.
Yeah.
And so we've been inseparable since that night.
Wow.
Yeah, I did. I went home with him that night.
You did?
I did. Well, no, actually, he said,
can't remember.
He said, you want to go get something to eat? And I was like, yeah. So we went to In-N-Out. And then he's like, now, where do you live? And I gave him the directions. But by the time he got close to my house, I had fallen asleep. And then he was like, I can't figure out where you live. And then I was like, well, I'll just go to your house. And so I ended up going to his house.
So she invited herself.
I did. I invited myself.
Yeah.
Sounds like a lot of shots that night.
And the rest of it is history.
It is history.
Good.
He's got a problem with his hands. He just talks with his hands and knocks things over.
I'm trying. Look, I'm holding. So she always, on the show, she picks on me all the time.
No, I don't.
Well, since we're on the marriage of topic, I kind of want to know what's your secret.
For 25 years?
Yes.
You know what he says? Someone has to listen. He always says, someone talks and someone listens. I'm the talker.
Oh, okay. So you're the listener 100% of the time?
Well,
No.
most of the time, what I tell her mostly is that if the conversation is one-sided, it's not a conversation, it's a lecture. Mm-hmm. So it's a back and forth, and I prefer it that way.
So it's kind of like a meeting, conference meeting.
Absolutely.
Like your turn to talk.
Yes. Yeah. And so I have to stop myself and I hold my hands so I can let him finish so I don't cut him off. I don't mean to, but I have so much that I want to say, and I'm trying to get it out.
And you have a big voice too. So.
That just means I talk loud, right? Is that what that means?
Yeah.
Well,
but I have a very unique
respectfully.
voice. It's very sexy and sensual. Like I can get real sexy on my voice. And sometimes I have to be firm in what I'm saying, and that's what happens.
Oh, so that's what it is.
I've got multiple personalities.
Do you?
No, it's just when I'm talking to him.
Yeah.
Well, thanks.
I'm just kidding, Wills.
Okay.
That was
So
a
the
joke.
It's
power
gonna be a
of
long
listening.
drive home.
What's funny is I actually drove most of the way because he stayed up. We stayed up. We were at the casino, so we stayed up. And I said, we got to get up early. We got to get up early.
Yeah.
And I was like, what time we got to leave? And I never really wanted to tell him. And then when I was like, what time did you get in? He was like, 4. And I was like,
Oh, did you win?
Yeah.
he did.
What'd you play?
Slots.
Okay.
But I've been extremely lucky with slots. I know they said that's your worst odds in the house, but every time I played poker or something, the dealer wins. So he get blackjack so fast, it just it just kills you.
Yeah.
But, we had fun. It was date night. And I knew he wanted to go, but I was trying to figure out how can I fit all these things in. I was like, how about we go to see Brian McKnight? There was 3 rooms left at this hotel, and he was able to get a room comped, and we went to the Brian McKnight. He got comp tickets, and he played a little bit, and he had fun. I woke up, I felt like a hooker because there was like $100 bills on the side. I was like, I must have did a great job last night. And I was like, did you win? He's like, yeah. He goes, I left something for you. And I looked, I was like, okay.
Oh, nice.
So I was happy. Thank you.
Yeah.
That's nice.
So it's better when we do it together.
I really wanted you guys to meet Denise because she's multi-talented. Not only does she have a full-time job as a medical health liaison, she does stand-up comedy. Please tell us.
I do. Okay, so I do stand-up comedy. I'm known as Denise, comedian Denise Carter.
Yes.
And I perform locally in Oxnard, Ventura County. My tagline is the reigning queen of comedy in Oxnard. But I always tell people, let me tell you what I'm thinking. That's kind of my tagline. And I like to tell people what I'm thinking. And most of the time, Wills writes all the material.
Wow.
See?
Yeah, he's a man of few words, but he's got a power punch. He really does.
Yeah.
He's really funny.
I
And
couldn't get up on stage and do that. That would kill me.
Oh, really? You're too shy.
Yeah, I probably would freeze up.
So you're the writer.
Yeah.
no, but I started doing comedy in 2013.
Before you got into healthcare?
Well, I was already into healthcare.
Okay.
But I started doing comedy again. My father was sick, and they told us he had 2 weeks to live.
Oh.
And that was in 12, actually. And I was like, wow, what are we gonna do? And there's 8 of us, 8 children. I'm kind of the middle. And my daughter said to the doctor, "Can I talk to you outside?" And I'm like, what are you asking questions for? But she wanted to know how long he was going to live, and they told her 2 weeks. And I said, "What'd you ask him?" She goes, "How long we got?" It's 2 weeks. And I said, "Okay." So we took him home on hospice, and no one agreed with the hospice thing because no one understood it. I understood it because I work in the industry. And what we ended up doing is we put him on hospice, and we would take turns on the weekends. I would say he was married 3 times. I like to call him the international lover because he had a black wife, a white wife, and then a Hispanic wife. Not all at once, but that's what I'd like to call him. And we decided that we would take turns. We would send his wife to get a Medicare, pedicure, and massage on the weekends. We'd take turns, and I was looking in the newspaper, and I saw this ad that said, "Become a comedian in 6 weeks." And I was like, "Dad." And he was in his hospital bed in the living room watching Kung Fu. And he goes, I said, "I should take this class to talk about your kids." And he said, "You should do it." And
like
I started
comedy
doing
class?
it. Yeah. And so before he passed away, 5 months later, he lived an additional 5 months.
Wow.
He would always say, "That's funny. You should tell Denise that." It didn't matter who he was talking to. And he saw my first 8 minutes before he passed away. And so that's what it's all dedicated to. That's how I balance. I like to say that's what it started out. And then I realized that people were attracted to my energy. Like they say, "You got really good energy." I'm like, "Really? I've always been like that." But I didn't really know. People always said, "Does she really know?" I kind of know, but it's not my thing. Like I'm just having fun living my life.
Yeah.
That's kind of what I do.
Yeah.
And so I've been doing stand-up comedy, headlining shows, doing the longest I've done is probably like an hour and 15 minutes.
Wow.
I've opened up for Mark Curry, for Paul Reiser, Mike Epps. I would have opened up for Kim Whitley, but I was in LA taping a show, and they said, "Hey, can you get here in 15 minutes? I need someone to host." And I was like, "For who?" And they're like, I was like, "I'm in LA, I can't make it." But that was 2 weeks ago.
Oh, wow.
So I was
What about
excited.
the lady from The View?
The lady from the,
I think she was
that
from
Whoopi?
The View.
no, you're talking about,
Not the wrong one?
you're
Wrong
talking
show?
about Cheryl.
Yeah.
No. I didn't open up for her. I didn't open up.
Oh, you? Oh, I was
No,
thinking you
we
did.
were talking after the show,
Oh, okay.
but I got a chance to meet her. So I'm excited.
Wow.
I'm excited about where the comedy can take me because I've now taped a few shows. I got casted. There was a lady that came in February, and she saw my first hour and 15-minute show at Levity Live and the Improv. And she came up to me and said, "I got a project I'm working on." And 6 months later, I had lunch with her in Hollywood, and she said, "I've cast you for something I think you'd be perfect for. I'm going to have the producer, call you." And they called me, and I was flying out of town. And a couple weeks later, they said, "You know what? We're going to cast you. We've already decided they've made a decision." So we start shooting on it. I don't have a script yet, but there are some heavy hitters in this play, like Chloe Bailey's in it. DC Youngfly. It's a show.
Wow.
I'm very excited, and I play this character, and I can't wait to bring it to life.
Does that mean you have to take time off work?
I don't know.
Yeah.
I'm not
just
even
play it by ear.
I'm just playing everything by ear. Right now there's so much uncertainty in our world right now.
Yeah.
Especially for brown and black people. I think there's so much going on. It's the time for you. If you have an opportunity to do something, just go for it. Like I'm not holding back. I've got a lot of things that I deal with just at my job. And I like what I do. Don't get me wrong. I've been known as the one called does it all for many years.
Yeah.
And people would just call me like, "I got this problem," and I would help them solve it.
Yeah.
Whether it was helping someone find a caregiver, if they couldn't afford it, I would help them find someone that was in their budget. If they needed a place to put their loved one, if it was in skilled nursing, board and care, or just frankly somewhere to live.
Yeah.
Or someone needing a babysitter. Like doctors would call me because maybe they went through a divorce and they needed a babysitter.
Wow.
I would help them find a babysitter. And then that person would end up turning to be the caregiver for their parents. So I've got a lot of really good relationships that are solid. And I think that's why when you said, "Oh, you're still there," I'm like, "Yeah, I'm still there." I was probably the only person that they, and I'll be very, very blunt about this, the only person that could have put a business on a digital sign on a freeway for free for 6 weeks.
Wow. Because of your connections.
Because of my connection. I am a connector.
Wow.
I'm multifaceted. I do quite a few things. Not just comedy. I do hosting. I emceed the Alzheimer's Walk a couple of years. The Juneteenth celebration. And that's like from 10 a.m. to 6 p.m. I'm the host.
Wow.
I did the Martin Luther King celebration. I emceed that. The Jazz Festival, the Bowl Full of Blues that was in Ojai. I've been very, very fortunate. People like my energy, and they need someone, I see things and I'm like, okay, we need to do this, this, this. I just kind of start directing. So I can do a multifaceted.
That's right. Please get more in depth and let everyone know what you do with the healthcare
So
department.
I work for a company called Mission Healthcare. Let me go back. So originally I used to work as a claims adjuster. I paid claims for Blue Cross. And after a year, realizing that in the medical industry, even if your child turned 18, if you didn't prove that your child was in college, we would deny all the claims. And I couldn't figure that out. Like, I was like, this is stupid. And then I went to work for a company called Meditech, and I started doing their paying their Medicare claims. And then there was a new computer system, and I'm jovial, so there was a lady there training us, and I said, "Hey, so you're here for 4 days? Let's go out." So every day I took her out. I took her out to Monday Night Football. I took her out to every day. So I was sleep deprived. I'm gonna say that. So the last day she was getting ready to leave, they're trying to create forms to follow the computer, and the owner of the company came in, "Hey, where's your boss?" And I turned around without like even thinking, and I said, "Making another damn form." And I said, the bottom line is, if they really wanted to know, all they had to do was ask me. I could have told them what came first. And then I looked at her and I thought, I don't know why I said that. And then she walked away. And I was like, damn, I shouldn't have said that.
Yeah.
And an hour later, her son called me, and he had given notice that he was quitting. And he goes, "Guess who, Mom?" Because that 4 days that I went out with this woman, he went out with me because we were just keeping this lady company because she was visiting from Pennsylvania.
Yeah.
And he goes, "Guess who my mom wants to hire for my job?" I go, "Who?" He goes, "You." I said, "Get the fuck out of here." And I said that, and I hung up on him because he worked in the office with me. I was like, whatever. And I kept moving on. So the next day, she was like, "I wanted to talk to you." And I went in her office. I thought she was going to say something about the comment.
Yeah.
She goes, I want to talk to you about this job. And I go, "Why?" And she goes, "I understand," she said, "you were surprised that I was interested in talking to you about doing David's job. And actually you said, get the fuck out of here." And I was like, he told her what I said, and I was surprised. And from that day on, she trained me to do the job, and I became a staffing coordinator. So I staffed all the hospitals in Santa Barbara and Ventura County.
Oh.
And I was really good at it.
Okay.
Not only did I staff the hospitals, I hired people. I was just very good at multitasking. And every phone call was for me, but they didn't understand my madness because I had 7 brothers and sisters, middle child. My mom had been sick, in and out of state hospital. So I was always trying to, I was always into making things happen.
Yeah.
Got to make sure the kids got fed, make sure their homework. I've really just had kids and done all these things. So it was easy for me to do it.
Yeah.
But people didn't understand that. And one day I left there because her and I got in an argument 4 years later. And I just felt like she didn't understand that as much as I coached baseball for my daughter, I would stop, make sure I faxed like nursing license, all these things that I was doing. And we got in a disagreement because they kept firing the receptionist. Every phone call was for me and I needed help. But they wouldn't just fire the person at 5. They'd fire him in the middle of the day and send him home, and all these calls were for me. And I just said, I'm not going to keep answering these phones. And she was like, "You will answer these phones." And I got really upset. I felt myself getting upset. So I went in the bathroom. I called my boyfriend and I told him this story. He's like, "Hey, did you have lunch yet?" And I said, "No." And he goes, "Well, meet me at the house and let's have lunch." And then he told me, he said, that's what I knew he loved me. He said,
Yeah.
He said, "You're not going back." And I said, "Not going back where?" I was on lunch break. He said, "You're not going back. You're not ever going back." And I said, well, how am I going to pay my bills? He said, I will shovel shit
Oh, Wills.
before I let anybody treat you like that. And it was the best feeling. It was just the best feeling. And we were dating. I had just moved in with him. Literally had not even been there a month, I don't think.
Wow.
And I was like, I don't know, what am I going to do? And I had 2 kids. And he was, I'd like to say he was big.
We need tissue.
Yeah.
I bet you didn't see that one coming, did you?
Oh.
No, and it was just, and I say that because sometimes we don't often, I don't often talk about that.
Yeah.
And thank you for bringing it out.
Yeah.
Because I don't think he really realizes just.
Yeah, you really made her feel love and
Yeah,
safe.
but I was dead serious. And, so I was saying that from a place of, from my heart. And so then that's why it came out that way.
Yeah, it did. And it was heartfelt.
So sweet, Wills.
Yeah. And after I left there, I never went back.
Yeah.
And someone called me and said, oh, we got this job for you doing this. I said, I never want to do that again. And then I interviewed anyway. And that's when I went to work for Assisted. And then I worked there for 18 years.
Wow.
Well, first I said yes. And then I thought, forget it. Over the weekend, I changed my mind. And then.
Was it sales and assisted living?
No, it was doing the same thing.
Okay.
Doing private duty staffing. I was
Okay.
doing staffing. And they didn't know me. So they didn't really understand my madness. I literally knew everybody's phone number. I used to call everyone every week. So I knew everybody's phone number. I knew everybody I did business with. And I just upsold. I went in there. I asked the person I was replacing, tell me about all your clients. I made notes. Tell me about all your staff. I made notes. They looked at me like, what are you going to do? I said, I'm going to call everybody. And I called everybody in the book. And then I asked them, what did they like and what did they dislike about the job? I said, okay. So then I knew what can I do to improve? And then I called all the clients and asked them what they didn't like. And then I said, well, if I can make this better, would you increase your hours? And it just exploded. And
Yeah.
they didn't really understand and they had never had any of their field staff never came in. But I left so many amazing messages that they were like, then I gave everybody a raise too. But I didn't give them a raise. I put it in mileage so they wouldn't get taxed.
Yeah.
And then the guy was like, you can't do that. And I was like, well, you want me to grow this? This is how I'm going to do it. And I did. And I worked there 18 years and I ended up from there I went into sales because I was doing staffing. And they said, well, you're doing this on the phone and you're having this kind of impact. What would happen if you went to meet people? And that's pretty much what happened. When I left Assisted after 18 years, they hired 3 people to replace me.
Wow.
It was very strategic. I have to give it up to them because they hired a black woman and we looked similar and people just called her Denise and she didn't change. She never told them that.
She played the part.
She played the part. And it's okay. And then Mission came knocking and I took the opportunity. And
Did they headhunt you or?
They did.
Oh.
I thought, who the hell's calling me? They know I'm not recruitable, but they just happened to call me at a day that I was having a challenging day.
Oh.
And I met with them. And I went to San Diego and Will said they got me drunk. And he's like, he didn't want to leave me with them. But I was like, yeah, they love me. I came back with a bottle of wine and at this hotel. And I actually really enjoyed the game.
Yeah.
The hunt. And then I took the opportunity.
It's a fun company.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was really fun with the original owners.
Yes,
and things have changed now, but
They're
I've been there-
corporate now.
Yeah, and I've been there 10 years. I never worked for a corporate. I've always worked for a small mom and pop. Excuse me. So I'm getting used to understanding what that means.
Yeah.
And it's more intense now because we have corporate people that I never had to deal with that. So
Yeah.
but I also have my own thing. When people ask me a lot of questions, I'm like, I really am a superstar.
I think so.
In my own world. Like it's my life, right? I not just do the healthcare thing. I do that, right? That's that. But I also do comedy. I also do hosting. I also do podcasting. I also do acting. I also do voiceover. I have a very unique life and I'm just getting started.
Yeah.
And people look at me and they're like, how do you do all that? Aren't you exhausted? I'm like, no. And then Will says, you guys get fun, Denise. You guys get fun, Denise. I get tired, Denise. Why do you say that, Wills?
No, this is serious. This is true. She comes home one night and we land in the bed. I said, hey, pass me the remote. And she go,
It didn't make it.
she was out cold.
Oh,
And I
gosh.
said, man. And then one other time, then I'll let you go ahead. But she come in, I know she had a long day, and she did like a little ballerina. She did a little pirouette and fell back on the bed and went,
Wow. You were out.
yeah.
Well, you know, I have a lot of energy and I put a lot of energy into all the things that I do, whatever it is. And I'm also being a connector. So I connect a lot of people. People call me for everything. And now I'm trying to figure out how can I monetize all that, right? My friend Tracy Shoup, and I love her to death. And she says, you need an app. You should have had, and she told me that, I don't know, maybe 15 years ago, Ask Denise app, because people would ask me for all kinds of things. And I'm like, okay, hold on, let me, text them back or whatever. And so now that's where I am right now in my life. Like I'm creating the Denise Carter Enterprises, which will consist of the podcasting and the comedy, the hosting, all the different things.
Every bit of your life.
Every bit of my life. And so, I have a character. Her name is Wee Wee. It's after my mother, and I've been kind of doing some little skits. And I've taped a couple, and I flew to New Orleans because my aunt turned 94.
Wow.
And I was the MC for a family gathering because she is a Jehovah's Witness, so you can't celebrate the birthdays. And they call it a family gathering. And I had to remember that. Like I kept telling myself, do not say happy birthday because that's rude. Like she's 94, they don't celebrate. But you got 90 people here. And I just kept saying family gathering, family gathering. So I dressed up as my mother in between in between different speakers. And I came out and I just took over and I did this skit. And she laughed till she cried. And then I gave her a doll. It was a Superman doll with a straw hat. And my mom was very eccentric. She used to dress different. She was a hairdresser, but she dressed really, really odd sometimes. And so I played the part. Everything my mom was, that's what I birthed her that day. And on the way up here, she had called me and I returned her call. And she said, I still have the doll and I have a picture of her. And she has the doll and it's got a hat. She's like, she just held on to it. And she's been holding on to it since I left her on Monday.
Wow.
Yeah.
So that was recent.
Yeah. We did it last Saturday, actually 7 days ago.
Oh.
So I taped her. It'll be coming out soon and I will have the footage next week. But we taped it in a studio, me and another person. We're going to start some YouTube shows and it's going to be the Wee Wee Show.
The Wee Wee Show.
Yeah, Wee Wee is my mom's nickname. Her name is Olivia Jean Powell Hackett, but Wee Wee was her nickname, and she was quite the character in our lives. And I just want to depict her the way she was because she had a massive heart attack, and we were all out of town celebrating, and we couldn't get to her because we had been drinking when we got the call that she had passed away, and we had been drinking heavy because it was in December. Matter of fact, it was December 5th. His birthday's in December. My brother's wife's Cedric, his wife Olivia, her birthday's in December. My sister Doris, her husband's birthday's in December. So we all had hotel rooms at Shumash.
Yeah.
And we were dancing and doing the Soul Train line. We had cowboy hats taking pictures.
Yeah.
We went downstairs because they were complaining that we were making too much noise. We want to get kicked out. And next thing you know, guess what? We're downstairs and my phone was ringing and I was like, I don't know why they keep calling me because we were just drinking and having a good time. And then I got a text to say, your mom just passed. And I was like, what? And I told my sister, I said, why would Peter send me this message? And then I could hear my brother yelling across the casino.
He got the same text.
Yeah, he was yelling for us and we all got together and we just, my aunt, her sister happened to be at the Shumash as well. And I said, I don't know how we're going to all get down, off this mountain. And my aunt jumped in the car and left and texted us and said, I'm going, you guys stay. You guys are in no condition to drive. And so my friend owned the mortuary. And so I said, we'll be back tomorrow and we can come and see her after she gets picked up. But yeah, that was devastating for us.
Wow.
Because she was ornery and she kept us going. And I just wanted
it was unexpected, right?
It was unexpected. My dad, he was on hospice. We knew he was going to pass, but she had a heart attack, and she was the life of the party.
Wow.
So just a fun fact, during COVID, her caregiver got COVID, and she was like, Carmen got COVID. I told her don't go to Vegas with them girls. She got COVID. And I said, well, let me take you to get a car. I ain't got no COVID. I ain't got no COVID. So I told Wills, this is what we're going to do because I'm doing things. I said, you go get in line. I'm going to go get her. And so he was in Oxnard College parking lot going through the maze. And I got her, pulled over to the side, got her. She was pissed. I'm not going to do it. And she got in his back seat and he had some Lysol, the spray. Everybody was using it. And she got in the car and got the spray and started spraying it on his head. She got in the car behind him in the back seat because, we thought she was exposed to COVID.
Yeah.
And let me tell you, she started spraying Lysol.
Yeah.
Did she take the test?
She took the test. She was negative, but it was the whole process in which we went through to get her.
Yeah, so she was fighting the whole process.
Yes, she was horrible.
The nasal test, right?
Yes.
Oh, hate that.
It was horrible. But honestly, if I think about it now, some of the things that we went through with her, it was just so much fun.
Yeah.
It was so much fun. My mother burnt up her kitchen cooking because she forgot she was cooking, went to the bathroom and started watching TV. Burnt up the whole thing in the apartment. So my brother paid to get it fixed. And I'm like, I'm thinking she might got dementia. She might have memory. I don't know. We don't know.
Yeah, she did it twice.
She did it twice. And we were like, oh boy.
How old was she when she passed?
77.
Oh.
And I was like, she stayed with us. She had a heart attack and a stroke probably about 4 or 5 years prior to that. And it was funny because I was going to happy hour. That's my thing.
Yeah.
On a Sunday. I was going to brunch actually. And I got a call saying, your mom just had a stroke and a heart attack. And the ambulance just came and got her because she had a boyfriend at the time. And I went and I was sitting at a bar, at an oyster bar, and I had just ordered a martini.
Yeah.
And I looked at the guy and I said, can you make me another one? Because I'm going to be at the hospital for the rest of the day. And so I ended up going to St. John's Hospital. When I got there, they're airlifting her to this cottage. I said, damn, I had 2 martinis.
Oh, gosh.
I was thinking. But then we all ended up driving up there. We got to the hospital before she got to the hospital. And my nephew came in and he's really religious and he prayed and prayed and prayed. And her mouth, everything went back to normal. And she stayed with us for 5 months. And then we took her back home because it was time because he worked nights.
Yeah.
And she'd always like, Mr. Wills, I sure wish I had me some liver and onions. And he would take her like at 12 o'clock. I'm like, you just got off at 10 a.m.
Yeah.
But he took care of her. He did.
Yeah. We go out to breakfast and stuff. And
Yes.
it was cool.
Wow.
And she was the one that in the middle of the night would say things like singing at like 3 o'clock in the morning for no reason.
I
My
think
mother was a
you
character.
picked up her energy.
Yes, I did. My mother.
Yeah.
Yeah. So fast forward, then I went to work for Assisted. I went to work for Mission.
Yeah.
I've been there 10 years.
10 years.
Yes. And now I am embracing
What year did you start?
2015.
15. Okay.
June.
Okay.
It'll be 10 years in June. And I am launching Denise Carter's Enterprises.
Yeah.
Is what I'm doing now. And that's something that I do away from Mission. Sometimes I tape my podcast in the conference room just because I tape doctors and nurses. I know what I'm doing.
Wow.
Yes, I've taped a palliative care nurse for the hospital, different physicians on different, one doctor was talking about, he's getting out of the prescription business. And I thought that was interesting.
Wow.
More on holistic health because he felt like there was so many politics in the business, and I found that interesting. So I tape on my podcast a lot of
Like on the go.
Well, I like interesting people, and right now I'm trying to figure out how to monetize all of it. So I created Ventura County Podcasting Network, which will support hanging out with the Carters. So that's what I'm doing.
Yeah. And we have had some real interesting guests. One in particular I like is the mortician.
Mortician.
Yes. I think he liked the mortician because he talked about aqua cremation, and
Yeah, I mean,
it was things that I didn't know
it was
existed.
definitely a learning process.
Yeah.
You know, I'm thinking,
What a job.
yeah.
It was. I mean, he was a mortician since he was 13 or 14.
He said he had a
But maybe a
passion for
family
it.
business?
Yeah,
or-
it was a
okay,
family.
okay.
It started out. He went to work with his family, and then he
Yeah.
created. I think he's got 4 or 5 mortuaries now.
Oh, gosh.
I mean,
Yeah.
you have to really like dead people.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I mean that in the best way possible, right?
Yeah, yeah,
Like,
yeah.
yeah.
Because I remember, so, you know, I don't know, I didn't even say this, but I used to braid hair. I braided hair for 20 years. That was a side hustle because I was a single parent.
Like in a
and-
salon or?
No, at home. Well, I worked.
Oh.
So my first job. So let me dial back a minute. I'm full of everything, right?
Are you a beautician?
I had a child at 15. So my mother went into my mother one day. I remember her saying, "We lived in this area," and she's like, "We're not going to live here long." And she was sick, and the next day our house burned down. And then next thing I know, she was in Cameron State Hospital, which
Wow.
for many years.
Okay.
And I thought now as I older, I think she had postpartum depression because she had a child every year, and my dad was a womanizer, and I love him though. But we knew. I remember as a child going to a hotel, and he was laying in bed with a white woman with long eyelashes.
It must have been hard on your mom.
And it was. And I remember asking her as I've gotten older. I said, I remember going to a hotel. How'd you get in there with all of us watching? Like this didn't make. We all kids walked into this. She said he left the key in his pocket, and she showed up with all his kids in a hotel room. And I remember that. It was crazy. But
How old were you?
I had to be like between 5 and maybe 8.
Oh.
That's what I'm thinking. But I remember it left the impact because I was tripping off the eyelashes.
But they stayed married.
Yeah, they stayed married.
Okay.
But they eventually got a divorce because my mom had a nervous breakdown, and you know she was
That'll happen.
My mom had a nervous breakdown, and she had no problem sharing her negative energy. Like she busted in the house after they split up, and she stabbed his waterbed and drove a car into the house. She drove a car into a car to try to get it into the house. It was all this craziness. We grew up crazy. I mean, it was a crazy childhood.
Oh my gosh.
But not having a whole lot of guidance. I grew up fast, and I had a kid at 15. And I'm proud of her. She's 43 now. She's got her master's degree. She works for the federal government. And she's really smart, really bright. And I have another daughter who lives she's 38. They're 5 years apart, and she lives in Texas. And she worked as a recruiter. She's really, right now, the job she had, they eliminated quite a few jobs. And now she's on the prowl for a new employment. And I'm proud of her because she said, you know, I'm a recruiter. I'm like, are you sure you want to do that? Because everybody I know, it's like a tough job. She's good at it. But they got the gift of the gap. They got that from me, so they know how to do that. But after I forgot where I was going with this story. Will, help me.
Okay, you was talking about your mom last.
Right, but how I got there, because I had this, braiding hair. So I started braiding hair to make extra money, and my aunt gave me a job. She said, if you get your GED, I'll give you a job, and you have to continue to go to school. So I got my GED because I went to teen mother school. I used to ride my kid on a bike for 2 years to go to work, to go to school, take her to the babysitter.
Oh, wow.
I did that for 2 years, and then I got my first car. I paid $500 for a Maverick. And this Maverick had a pinhole, and the guy said, just put a little black pepper in it. And I didn't understand. I'd be driving down the street just crying because the black pepper was coming through the vent. I had no idea.
Oh, geez.
So, but anyway, so I braided hair, and I did that. That was my first career. That's how I got to know a lot of people, and I felt like a hair therapist.
Yeah.
And so given that opportunity to help me.
Because it takes a while, right?
Oh, it's like 8 hours. The first time I did it took me 2 days. And I loved it because I would zone out. I would just zone out, watch TV, and just braid hair, and I made money. And I charged, most of my clients were white.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, and I charged like $150. And my sister used to come in from Louisiana, and she's like, I need to braid some hair, I need to make some money. And I just set her up a bunch of appointments, and she'd braid hair. My brother knows how to braid. My sisters know how to braid. Everybody braided hair. I'd stack people in. I'd start the braids, they'd finish them. And we'd had
You're probably faster now.
Yeah. I used to race my kids to see who was fast. I'm still pretty fast at it.
Wow.
Yeah.
You
They
didn't
didn't
get
want to do it.
arthritis from.
They didn't want to do it because they're millennials, right? They didn't want to do
Yeah.
it. You have to take the time to do it, but they're spoiled. So they braid their own hair because the people that braid, this is a certain technique they like.
Oh,
So I'm very
wow.
grateful that I passed that down.
Wow, that is talent.
Yeah.
That takes
So-
patience, actually.
So you can imagine, I'm 59 years old, but I've had a lot of career. So I've had a lot of different careers. It wasn't just that. So now I'm in this process of being my authentic Denise Carter because I've had to show up for this person or that person. I still love what I do, but at the same time, I'm creating my next phase for my life.
Do you take your life experiences into your comedy show?
I do. And so a lot of that, I'm trying to, for a long time, I tried to figure out who I was. So a guy came up to me and said, hey, buy a ticket for a comedy show. I go, I'm funny. I'm not going to buy a ticket. He goes, well, if you're funny, I'll give you 5 minutes. I was like, okay. So I went to Salzer's and I started looking around and said, what do I want to talk about? So I told all these like raunchy jokes. And I got a standing ovation. So the next time the guy brought me back as a headliner, paid me $200. I didn't really know what I was doing. I came up, I did a skit, I showed up with afro on. I was just talking trash.
Yeah.
And then when I met Wills, he saw my first comedy show, and then I got involved with a heckler, and I completely drew a blank. And people started booing me, and it crushed my heart. And then I stopped. That was probably in 2000. So I met him in 90.
Yeah, I met you in 94.
94. And so I did that, and then I didn't do it again until my father got sick.
Okay.
And he tried to encourage me to go back. He goes, just tell my mom's crazy and blah, blah. It was so funny. He was telling me, and I was like, I'm not doing that. And then, but eventually I realized that was kind of a passion for me. It's how I cope, is I find a joke in everything.
Yeah.
Because you have to.
Yeah.
I'm very sensitive, so people don't know that it's usually comedy and tragedy, right? I can cry easy. That's why I should be a great actress, right?
Yeah.
But I think what it is, I've lived a lot. I have.
Yeah.
And a lot of people, don't really know my past. So when I start telling stories, they're like, what? I'm like, yeah, I had a kid at 15. I also do TED Talks. So I emceed a talent show at Oxnard College, Oxnard High School. From there, this guy called me during the pandemic. He said, hey, I really like the way you interacted with the kids. Would you come tell your story to my class? So every year I've been doing that for the last couple of years.
Really?
Encouraging them to follow. Some people aren't college material, right? But I did go to Oxford College. I got my AA. It took me forever, but I did do it. And I encourage kids to follow their heart. If you want to go into nursing, go into nursing. If you want to be an electrician, a plumber, whatever it is. Wills was a HVAC mechanic. And that brought him from Alabama. He went into the Navy.
Yeah, well, the military, that was the training that I received from the military. And I'm still doing it. I retired, but I work for the hospital. And we the ones, as a stationary engineer, we make the hospital cold and take care of the medical air, vacuum, liquid oxygen, nitrogen.
And you said the night shift?
Yes.
Wow.
What's crazy is one day I brought him dinner and he goes, let me show you around and show you what I do. And I went in there and I was like, what's that? He's like, oxygen. I said, what's that? Hydrogen. I said, what's that? He said something else. I said, I'm leaving. He said, why? I said, my cell phone might go off. I just think it could be a bad idea. And I left.
And she did.
And I did. Because I remember, I know that if, just in case there's a gas leak and your phone could spark. I mean, this was back in the day, but I just remember that.
Really?
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
If you listen to him, he's very smart. He never really.
Oh, thank you.
He's a man of few words.
No, once, because, we had different classes from the gas company, and the tinies of spark, or even static electricity. See, there you go. Leave me alone. The static electricity can set off an explosion.
Wow.
And we was trying to secure a gas leak, and the guy that was the work lead, he jumped in the hole with us, but he had 3 cell phones on his body. And I says, man, you got to get your blankety blank out of here before we all die.
Oh.
And then he pulled the pipe loose. And for the first time in my life, I saw the fire department running from us.
Oh.
Usually they run to you.
Yeah.
The fireman
running
was
away.
running. And I saw the fear in their face, and I'm trying to get out of the hole. So yes, it can be explosive, but, knock on wood.
Yeah.
I guess I'm the wood. But, I just want to, Wills doesn't say much. That's why our podcast is so unique, right? Because he rarely likes to talk. So I call it date night for us because then we get a chance to ask questions. But one year, Wills, he's very modest, so he doesn't really talk about the things that he does. But he fell through the acoustical ceilings. Like, I don't know how many.
Work?
Yes.
Yeah. Oof.
And I don't know how many feet, how many roofs.
I don't know. They had about 5 false ceilings in there, and I went through all 5, and the last one would have been a drop, about a 14 feet drop on the floor.
Oh no!
And but I fell across the cross beam, which I thought I had broke my back, and the girl said the whole entire building was just shaking.
Oh.
So it scared the mess out of me.
Wow.
And then
You didn't break anything?
No.
No. So I go to the doctor with him, and he doesn't want me to talk. I'm like, okay, so he doesn't want me to talk. I said, listen, you could have something broke. No, I'm fine. He's modest, right? He don't want to make a fuss, don't complain, all that kind of stuff. But what happened, how he fell, which is very unique, is that someone said, hey, let me step by you. And when he stepped by him,
Yeah.
that's basically how you fell, right?
So we was putting the AC unit up in the attic, very high up in the attic, and you walking on these 2x4s.
Yeah.
But you was up there for a week. You get comfortable. You make yourself at home. And I got careless. And when he passed me, I stepped backwards. Then I started falling, and I'm continuing to fall. And I'm looking up, and I could see his eyes getting this big, looking down at me. And then I make that final stop.
Yeah.
And then, of course,
The ambulance
But
came.
forever, every time he laughed, which I make him laugh, he would hurt. And so I knew he had broke something, but I was like, Wills, I think you should. And I think his ribs were broken.
They didn't do X-ray?
Yep. I think
He
they
didn't
said
want
it
to.
was. They told
Exactly.
me later it was fractured. And
He went to the Navy-based doctor. I wanted him to go to the hospital.
Oh, that lady was scary as a nurse.
Yeah.
The look on her face, she made me scared. And she says,
Exactly.
if you start hurting anymore, don't come back here. Go to St. John.
Yeah.
Oh.
The nurse should be
But
telling
he didn't
me
want to
that.
go. He didn't want to go.
Oh,
but
no.
that was, I don't know how many years ago that was,
Oh, that
but
was a long time ago.
but that's the kind of man he is.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I'm excited what we're doing just as the podcasting, and he writes jokes for me. So let's just talk about that. What's your process, Wills?
No, I pick up a funny pretty much anywhere and just try to, flip it around. Matter of fact, true story. I went to the hamburger stand, McDonald's, I think, or Burger King one. Anyway, this kid there, and I'm trying to make my order. And, I think it's a job for everybody, but this kid was a stutterer. And so he's the first person you meet. And then, like, you want to get my order. And I'm thinking, oh my God, they're not for real. But they gave him the worst job for a person that have trouble communicating with people. And so I thought that was unique, so I wrote a joke about that.
You did?
He did. And it's funny because I just started performing the joke and it lands just so well. Yeah. So I think I've performed it 3 times so far. And it's just it's so I started telling the story about. So I went to go get Will something to eat. So I get to the McDonald's and the person said, may I help you? It was like, may I help you? And I said, yes. And then I said, but it was help you. And I was like, am I being punked? Like, is somebody filming this? And then I said, yes, I'll have, 2 Egg McMuffins, coffee, orange juice, 3 creams. And I started telling my story. And then they said, may I repeat your order? And I was like, so I go through this whole thing. And then when I get to and he tells the story, and it's like, I've got to practice patience. And when I get to the window, and I say, I'm gonna tell you like I tell my grandson, take your time. That's kind of how I ended. And it was a great joke, but it was a true life story. And so a lot of the jokes that I have, they come from like, we might be going through something that I tell him a story and he's like, oh, that's funny. And then he'll start creating it.
Yeah.
And then my job is to remember it. Now you have to remember, I have so much coming at me. I'm trying to remember, how do I remember everything? So I'm literally trying to make sure my focus has to be like, I have to take time to practice.
And there's no teleprompter?
No.
Wow.
This is me. Sometimes I'll have a bottle of water on a stand and I might make a note on my phone, but I am not a millennial. So, you know, like you great people that know how to run stuff around here, how do you keep your phone on so it doesn't go dark, right? Like, so you can look at like I can remember. It's just really funny. So, sometimes I'll write on a napkin under my water just so I get so I don't forget.
Little notes.
But one time I saw Chris Rock at Shumash.
Of all places.
And then behind the speaker, there was a list of his topics.
Oh.
And I was like, and all this time, I thought it was just me, but it was very interesting.
Yeah.
Did you pick up that trick?
I did.
Okay.
Like, you know, it's a
Smart.
great trick. Just so you don't forget where you're going.
Yeah.
And you know what? I'm grateful for the opportunities that I've been given.
Yeah.
And it's a fun ride right now.
And you only do stand-up in Oxnard
No,
right now?
I'll be at the Ice House on the 26th in
Where's
Pasadena.
that? Pasadena?
Yeah.
I will be
April 26th?
April 26th. I'll be at the Pasadena Ice House. I'm doing a show on the 18th in San Dimas,
Okay.
and I can't remember the name of the place because I taped a show. I taped a TV show. Actually, it's going to be streaming on Amazon, Roku, and PlayStation, which is weird. That is going to start streaming. It's called Let's Laugh. It's on Green TV, but it'll be streaming. That's the first. I just taped that. So from there, two of the comics there, they booked me, and from that booking, the same guy. That's how come I was taping this new show.
Yeah.
And I normally don't go to LA just because I'm always busy.
Yeah.
And so now I'm just putting myself out there because there's a lot of change going on in the industry that we're in. If the federal government cuts the reimbursement for Medicare and Medicaid, they won't need people like me. They'll just be relying on AI. That's what I feel.
Really?
That's what I think. I mean, if you think about it, because if you have a robot so that can take in the referrals and process them, they won't need salespeople. And I do sales, but I do leadership sales.
I feel like that's years away still.
I don't know. I don't know.
Really?
Nope. They have robots in nursing homes in Japan.
Really?
That's what I heard. And I haven't read up on it. I read something about these different robots. The robots are coming and they're not going away. AI is here. That's why a lot of people don't have a lot of jobs. So you doing your podcast, me doing my podcast, I'm trying to learn this industry and understand it a little bit more because it's big business. It's $1 billion industry.
Is it?
And yeah, well, let me just tell you, I told this guy who owned the sign about why I wanted to do the podcast. The next day, he sent me an article on the number one podcast. Her name is Call Me Daddy.
Yes.
Yes. And she had just got this like huge opportunity. It was like she signed a contract for 3 years. It was, no one had ever had a contract like that.
Wow.
And then the Kelsey brothers
Okay.
also have a podcast. So I had the opportunity, and this was such an amazing opportunity. My sister got a full ride scholarship to go to LSU from Ventura College. She was a basketball player and a volleyball player, and they used to call her the Hammer because she come down and she was the Hammer. I didn't even get it. Like, I went to a game and I'm like, what are they chanting?
She slam dunks?
Yeah, she's just they put her in the paper and she was palming a basketball like this in the center
hands.
in both hands.
How
And
tall?
She's a little less than 6 feet.
Yeah, she's taller than I am.
Yeah, but it's interesting. Vanessa Hackett Jacobs, and her volleyball coach. I interviewed her on a podcast. She's 80 years old. I thought, okay, let me just call her. So I go to her house because I don't want her to leave because
Did you
she's
say
80.
80-year-old coach?
80-year-old, she's 80 now.
Okay.
So I go to interview her, go to her house. why do you want to interview me? I said, I just think it's fascinating. And I found out my sister was the first Black athlete she had ever coached.
Wow.
She also created a coaches conference. That coaches conference now, there are 10,000 people plus that attend that every year now.
Is she retired now?
Yeah.
Okay.
She told me all this stuff. And as I'm walking out the door, interview over, you know, my niece is some bigwig over at Spotify. I got backpack in hand and I said, what did she do? I don't know. I'll hook you guys up. So literally, and I'm not kidding you, this is going to blow your mind. Hey, Denise just interviewed me on a podcast, on a text message. You know, I think you guys should talk. So she sends me a calendar link and I get in my car because I don't want to be disturbed. I have a notepad and a pencil. Thought she can give me some pointers, right? I don't look the lady up. I know nothing about her. And I say to her something crazy like, she's like, tell me about you. And I just start talking. I said, well, I'm kind of the Oprah of Ventura County. I do blah, 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 blah. And I talk for 6 minutes and I look at my clock. I said, oh, I felt like I just threw up on you. She said, you got me sucked in. And she gets full transparency. Oprah's my number one client. And I start to cry because I'm like, oh my God, what did I just say? Like I'm thinking, I can't even remember everything I said because I was just talking.
You're like, did I mess up?
Yes, yes. That's exactly what I thought. This woman for 38 minutes gave me some of the most amazing information. And I just am now just creating and just trying to be my authentic self. And basically what she told me is she's like, I want you to carry people with you. Go get you a mic, take people with you. Whatever you're doing, tape it. And she said, my clients work from their pool. She just started telling me all this stuff. I was overwhelmed.
Wow.
And because of the day job, I haven't had a chance to really implement all the things, but that's what I'm doing.
That's okay. You can do it on the weekends and it can grow gradually.
Yeah, that's it. And that's what I'm doing. I'm not in a hurry.
Like organically.
Yeah, that's exactly what I'm doing. But she gave me some amazing information. And so that's what I wanted to make sure I have it polished. I want to have a good business card, a media sheet, all the things so I can go out and get sponsors.
Wow.
So what's really interesting about me being a connector is I'm just going to use the people that I already talked to. Because I said, call the mortician.
People.
I'm like, hey, I need a sponsor. Come see me, babe, anytime. What do you need? I'm like, I don't know yet. So I'm creating a media sheet so I can go and get me some sponsors.
Wow.
So then I can have a really good setup. That's
I'm so excited for you. I'm really going to try to come on the 26th to Pasadena.
Are you?
Because Oxnard is so far.
No, but I'll be now I don't even know where I am geographically because I'm like, we're by Long Beach, right? Like we're on the other side. I actually used to work for a fitness emporium and they were housed in, not Newport, but Redondo Beach.
Yeah.
And I remember driving and with fun fact, I did bookkeeping. I don't know, I can't keep any books now. I don't know why I can't.
Yeah.
But because I'm busy. That means I have to sit down and like do stuff. But I remember one of the owners of the club, he used to fish the money out of the floor. Like we had safes. And he'd fish the money and I'd come in and gather. It's like, sorry, Denise, I needed a loan. Sorry, Denise, I needed a loan. And I was the only black person. I'm like, hey, I don't know why he took the money, but the money is missing and here's a note, right? And then eventually they told me he was a heroin addict. And I didn't know that. I know, right? Can you imagine being like, that happened to me. And, so there's all these stories that I've got. I need to remember that. That was a good one.
Yeah,
actually.
Let's write it down, Wills.
Yeah, write that one down. Yeah.
I'll make a joke out of it.
Oh my
I know I've
gosh.
just probably talked. And I don't know, did you ask any questions?
No, I didn't have
No,
to.
you didn't give her a chance.
You just hit the ground running. I love it. I mean, this is the reason why I wanted you here is because you're such a breath of fresh air. I remember when you first came into the office, I'm like, wow, she's so fun. I'm so sad that she's not working here and she has to work over there. I wanted you in our office because, we like to have fun at work and, mission.
Do you miss it?
I miss the people, but not the pressure,
The pressure was real. You did sales, right?
I was a liaison. I kind of did a little bit both of hospice.
Are you at LB yet?
Yes.
Oh, look at
hospice and
home health?
both.
You were at the hospital, weren't you? Wasn't that you had a specific hub?
Yeah, I did a lot of training the staff. That's what I was in charge of.
Yes.
Like going into this.
Well, you were in the Irvine office? Or
No.
San Diego.
Mission Valley.
Mission Valley. Ooh.
Yeah.
A lot of changes there.
Yeah,
A
I
lot
know.
of changes there.
Yeah. that's where corporate is.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So,
A lot of people have gone.
I know there's only like a handful now that are still there. And that's why I think you're still there, is because you're valuable to the company.
You think so?
Yeah, of course.
You often wonder, I'm a touchy-feely person, right? So I like being where I am because I like the way people make me feel. When people make me feel that it's time to go, that's when it's time to go. That's 18 years I worked at a company, and I came up with this idea, and it was a way to get our referral sources. Like Mission used to do the funky, right? And I came up with a fatini. What it was a fashion show with martinis.
Oh.
And what I did was I said, God, fashion. I was a procrastinator. I was like, I have to have an idea for this meeting tomorrow. And I was like, fashion. I was drinking a martini. I was like, fashion show martinis. What do I call it? My daughter, my youngest daughter, she's like, Cynthia. She's like, duh, call it a fatini. I was like, genius. So I won the $25 gift card, and I put together this fashion show that basically we put a spotlight on every doctor, every nurse, and every healthcare executive at an assisted living. And I put them on a catwalk and talked about what they did and got them clothes to change into. And it was genius.
That's wild.
The last one I did, we had over 500 people there.
Oh.
And each martini, like, the dirty martini, the lemon drop, was a sponsorship that any company could buy and have tables there. And it was fun. And I was the MC.
That's why you're still there.
Yeah, no, that was at Assisted.
Oh.
Yeah, I did that. And so the day
Not
after
for Mission.
the day after that, the last time I did that, I quit the next day.
Oh, yeah.
I quit the next day and went with Mission. It was time for me to go.
Yeah.
As you start to grow and evolve into different things, it's time. And so I'm not sure if my time is up with Mission, but as things, and it's becoming different, just in a corporate world. I don't think that my time is up there, but who knows? I mean, for me, I look at life differently. I want to feel like I belong somewhere, and I feel like I belong there.
I think so.
But there's so many changes in our industry. It's hard to find nurses. It's hard to find, but this still doesn't mean that you, even though it's hard to find the staff, you still need to bring in a certain amount of business. So the pressure is real, and so I just want people to be happy.
Will you guys come back?
I will. I know I need to wrap it up. How long have I been talking?
No, we can circle back and see where you guys are at, and good luck on the podcast. And
Thank you.
I'm going to see your comedy show.
I hope I've given you what you wanted.
Yes. Thank you again, guys. Thanks for coming.
And don't forget to follow us on Hanging Out with the Carters on Spotify or wherever you get your podcasts. And Denise Carter's Enterprises will be launched soon. I actually just got the promo, so I'm excited.
Will you be on YouTube also?
Yes, I'm on YouTube, and I'm trying. So I have these guys who know what they're doing, because I have 4 Facebooks, I don't know, a couple of different Instagrams. I'm just trying to make sure I streamline it and do it right.
Yeah.
So they're helping me.
Denise Carter.
Denise Carter.
Look out for her. Thanks, guys.
Thanks.